The average human has about 6,000 thoughts per day. Now, what if I asked you to take all 6,000 of those thoughts and direct it at ruining someone's life? Stay with me, I know it sounds crazy, but you ever been pushed to the point of no return by someone? Like there's someone that's constantly pushing your buttons. Now, imagine that this person decides to do this for over 100 years. Want to hear a story? Well, I'm assuming that you do since we're already this far in our conversation. I'm Matt, by the way. I take the most interesting things happening in our world and I'll break it down for you. My friend, this is the North Sentinel people, the most isolated tribe in the world. Located on North Sentinel Island, which is part of a bigger island called the Andaman Islands, they are located just east of India, below Myanmar, currently under the Indian government's power, but before that it was under the British government's power. Do you remember when I was talking to you about someone pushing your buttons over the course of 100 years? Well, the North Sentinel people have been getting their buttons pushed by the outside world for the past 100 years, so much so that they made it clear to us that if any outsider decides to step foot on their island, well, it's on sight. Furthermore, the North Sentinel people have also wanted to make these 3 words very clear to the outside world. Leave us alone. And you know what? I don't blame them. I know they hate us. And you know what? I'm pretty sure they hate the day that they were discovered by us. The year was 1771, and a British man named John Ritchie was out at sea. Now, John looked into the deep, dark, distant night and noticed that there was an island that he hadn't seen before. John looked a little closer and he saw that on the island shore, there was a flicker of light. Now, John at that moment didn't think much of it, but also, John wasn't trying to find out. In the year 1771, John did not have movies, but in the year 2024, you and I have movies, and we both know that if you and I saw a creepy island in the dead silent middle of the night, you and I are going to look at each other, look back at the island, look at each other, look back at the island, look at each other, hold each other, and then we're going to decide that we are going to pretend that we didn't see anything because nothing good ever happens in those moments. That's what John did. Sailed off into the night. Forgot about it. Unfortunately, this is where the story takes a dark turn, because this is when Maurice comes around. Maurice Vital Portman was a part of the British Navy. Son of a nobleman, Maurice was tasked with the Andaman Islands and looking after it. Before we get to this, though, I need to tell you what's happened between 1771, when John found out about the island, till the early 1800s when Maurice comes around. So, between this block of time, here's what happened. The British colonized India. The Indians didn't like that because who likes being colonized? The Indians decided to lead a rebel against the British. The British beat the rebellion, and also then take these rebels and put them on an island to keep them prisoner. Which island is that? Well, you guessed it. It is the Andaman Islands. John, when he came back, probably told the British about these islands, and the British decided to use it as a colony. The only problem? Well, the North Sentinel people, along with other tribes on the Andaman Islands, were already occupying this island, so they didn't take it too lightly when they decided to see that prisoners were coming to this island. They didn't like it and decided to fight back. The British fought with them as well, and unfortunately, the British won. The indigenous people were wiped out in big numbers, either because of war or because they were exposed to illnesses from these outsiders that their bodies didn't know how to heal from. And this is where Maurice comes in. Maurice, like I said before, was tasked with watching over the Andaman Islands, but Maurice was a different man. So different that one day him and his men decided to kidnap 4 children and an elderly couple. Do you want to know the worst part about this? Is that Maurice actually has a history of being like this. You see, Maurice would interact with the Sentinelese people and decided to take some of them and make them pose like Greek statues, like the one you're seeing right here. The only part is that he would make sure they posed exactly like how Greek statues were, so that means that you would actually see the parts that I'm not showing here. And the worst part about that was that he would journal about it. He would describe the Sentinelese people and every aspect about them, including their body, including those private areas too, and he got really descriptive about those areas. Now, even though there was a language barrier, you didn't really need language to know that Maurice was a weirdo. The Sentinelese people saw that right away, and whenever Maurice came around them, they hid. It's just unfortunately that one day, those 4 kids and that elderly couple didn't hide. Maurice saw them, and with his men again, kidnapped them. Maurice conveniently doesn't journal about what happened in those moments when he kidnapped them, but we do know a couple of things. For one, the elderly couple that was kidnapped did not return to their people. It's likely that they were exposed to illnesses from these outsiders that, again, their body didn't know how to heal from, so they didn't return. The kids did return. They returned with candy, actually, but the islanders saw that these kids weren't the same. It angered them. How could you do that to a child? The worst part is we don't know exactly what they did, but it was enough to damage those kids for life. And it reinforced these 3 words for the outside world: leave us alone. The people were enraged after that, and that's where the hostility grew even more. Fasting forward to 1974, we have National Geographic wanting to do a documentary on these people. The director and his crew decide to sail to the Andaman Islands, hoping to actually interact with the North Sentinel people. They thought they would be met with sunshine and hellos, but they look up in the sky and they saw nothing but arrows raining down towards them. The director looked up, saw an arrow, he looked down and saw that the arrow dug its way through his leg, and he knew immediately these people did not care what they were here for. They were looking to kill them. The same 3 words were reinforced to these people: leave us alone. There was also that time in 2006 when 2 fishermen named Sundar and Pandit decided to go illegally fishing near the Andaman Islands. They went so close that they got to the point of no return, and they were also tipsy in this process too. Well, the Sentinelese people saw them, the Sentinelese people took them, and the next morning the outside world saw what happened to Sundar and Pandit. They were put into eternal sleep, and they were also hung from bamboo. Crazy, I know. But again, the same 3 words rang out loud: leave us alone. And then there was 2018, where we met John. No, not John Ritchie, but John Allen Chow, a missionary who wanted thrill in his life. He looked at North Sentinel Island and saw it as Satan's last stronghold, and he believed it was up to him to ensure that he converted these people to Christianity. So that's what John did. John went to India. John bribed fishermen to help him get to these islands, but the fishermen were a little bit smarter than Sundar and Pandit, and they only got him so far. They knew that these people were hostile, and they told John that. They also told John, this is as far as we're going, and if you want to get any closer, you have to get there on your own. So that's what John did. John jumped out, and John swam to the island and was already met with hostility. Long story short, John reached the island and was dragged into the forest in the dark night. The fishermen didn't know what happened to him, and when they came back the next morning, they saw John on the island shore in an eternal sleep, and John never woke up. Is it always like this? Yes, usually, because they always rang these 3 words very clear: leave us alone. But there was that one time where we gave them coconuts and they seemed to like that. I mean, out of all things in the world, giving them coconuts kind of simmered them down a little bit. That's crazy, I know. But anyways, if you click the link in the bio, you'll see that I talk about things like this all the time. And some of the things I talk about, I can't really talk about on YouTube. So again, link is in the bio. If you liked what you saw, as much as I hate to say this, but it does help me out, like and subscribe. And with that being said, have a great day and goodbye.